On this Sunday night, chaos and confusion in Gaza. Israel accused of firing into crowds clamoring for aid.
Stop the war. What have people done to deserve this dying every day?
The IDF's response, alleging fake news. Ukraine claims a stunning attack on Russian forces. How Operation Spiderweb allegedly destroyed dozens of warplanes. Canada's first ministers meet in Saskatchewan with energy and the economy top priorities. And the last day for the Bay.
Or maybe get some nice shirts or something like that.
Customers bid the retailer a fond farewell.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Chris Galis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We start with breaking news and what the FBI is calling a terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. Several people were injured. Some may even have been set on fire, according to witnesses. The attack took place at a pedestrian mall where demonstrators had gathered to call for the release of hostages who remain in Gaza. One man was taken into custody. Boulder police say it's too early to discuss a possible motive, but that witnesses are being interviewed. Now, there are disturbing and conflicting reports out of Gaza tonight that a crowd of Palestinians was fired on while trying to get food. Local health officials say at least 31 people were killed, with witnesses saying Israeli tanks and military vehicles opened fire. But Israel is denying the claims and blaming Hamas. Candice Cole has the story.
Cries of grief and mourning permeated the streets of Rafah following an attack near an aid distribution center run by the U.S. and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This woman says her brother-in-law went to get food when he was shot down. My sister's husband went to get a loaf of bread. Instead of giving him a loaf of bread, the Israelis gave him a bullet in his head. According to Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry, Israeli forces are responsible for killing more than 24 Palestinians and injuring over 200 others. Witnesses say a tank fired at Palestinians gathered, clamoring to get food after a 2-month blockade. But GHF and Israel Defense Forces have denied the claims made Sunday, saying they are unaware of injuries caused by IDF fire, accusing Hamas of reporting fake news.
I urge you not to believe every rumor spread by Hamas. We will investigate each and one of those incidents and each and one of those allegations.
In this drone video posted to X, the IDF suggests the gunmen shown here are Hamas operatives firing at civilians. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says 16 trucks of food were delivered without incident. The private organization released this video to illustrate as much. Global News has been unable to verify any of this because Israel does not allow journalists into Gaza. Following the attack at the aid distribution center, the Israeli military launched an airstrike on a building in a residential area in Gaza City as people run for cover. Sunday's strike comes just days after Israel issued an evacuation order for northern Gaza amid a new military operation. The private delivery of aid was initiated to quell Israel's concerns that aid to Gaza is being diverted by Hamas. Although the United Nations has been critical of the effort by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, accusing it of undermining humanitarian principles and militarizing aid distribution. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
A Palestinian father who lost 9 of his 10 children in an Israeli airstrike last month has died from injuries he sustained in the same attack. Mourners in Khan Yunis held a funeral today for Hamdi al-Najjar. Hospital officials say he died after undergoing several surgeries. Najjar, a doctor, was home with his 10 children on May 23rd when they were hit by an airstrike. One child survived. He is still in hospital. The children's mother, a pediatrician, was working at the hospital at the time of that attack. Ukraine is claiming to have carried out a dramatic strike against its much bigger and better armed Russian neighbor. A kind of Trojan horse operation orchestrated over several months using an extensive network of spies and a fleet of drones. It appears to have taken out at least 40 Russian military planes deep inside Russian territory. The drones may be tiny, but their impact is massive. Social media posts show several Russian military planes in the country's northern Murmansk and Siberia regions blown up, some 4,500 kilometers from the front line, allegedly by coordinated Ukrainian drones. The Reuters news agency confirms the location of the videos, but not the timing of when they were filmed. However, tonight, Kyiv is saying more than 40 Russian warplanes at 4 different airfields deep inside Russia have been hit. It appears Ukrainian spies were able to hide the drones in the top panels of these containers, which the Russians inadvertently then delivered to their military bases. The panels were then removed remotely, allowing Ukraine to fly the drones out and launch their attack. In this unconfirmed video posted to Russian social media, you can even see what appears to be Russians trying to prevent more drones from launching as the smoke from one attack billows in the distance. The entire operation, nicknamed Spiderweb, had apparently been in the works for 18 months, supervised directly by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And turning to the wildfires raging across the prairies now, more than 25,000 people have been forced out of their homes across parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. With more hot, dry weather on the way, there are fears the fire situation may erupt in the coming days, especially if the winds shift. Melissa Ridgen reports.
The military continues to move people to safety from communities including Pimachikamak and Puckatawagan in northern Manitoba. Many making several stops before getting to a place to finally rest.
It was scary because I have 4 of my kids and the youngest was 8 months. So it's kind of hard to go from here to here to here to here. But now that we're here, it's much better. I feel safer and my kids are warm. We have everything we need right here.
Peguis First Nation, 2 hours north of Winnipeg, was itself evacuated by wildfire earlier this month. Now the community is helping others. Evacuees continue to trickle into Winnipeg too, many with furry friends.
We are with Animal Food Bank and donating a ton of items, including crates, collars, dishes, food, litter, anything pets can use that people have brought in with them from the fires up north.
She says while stressed, evacuated pets are the lucky ones.
It's truly sad because there's so many that have been left behind.
Several animal charities have mobilized to get pet food to evacuated communities and into the hands of emergency services personnel. These dogs happy to see a meal in Pimachikamak. In Saskatchewan, devastation and 15 active fires producing suffocating smoke. Mosaic Stadium in Regina barely discernible. About 8,000 people have been relocated in that province. Next door in Alberta, 1,300 have had to flee so far. Officials in both of those provinces warn the numbers of evacuees could climb in the coming days. The Manitoba Wildfire Service says very high to extreme fire danger persists. Only a few places on the prairies have even a slight chance of rain, and those that do are also at risk of lightning. But for most regions, not a drop in the forecast. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
The fires across the prairies aren't stopping pivotal talks from happening between Canada's first ministers in Saskatchewan. Prime Minister Mark Carney is meeting with Canada's premiers in Saskatoon tonight, with energy and trade barriers at the top of the agenda, following up on key promises Carney made during the election. Our Mackenzie Gray is in Saskatoon with more. Mackenzie?
Well, the smoke that's been covering Saskatoon for the past number of days has cleared out, Chris, just in time for the Prime Minister and the Premiers to arrive here in Saskatchewan. And the wildfires will be a topic of conversation when they meet, but the key conversations will be about the key things that Mark Carney promised during the last election.
Build our country, build our economy.
Before heading to Saskatchewan, the Prime Minister making a pit stop in Calgary to meet with energy executives.
The world's certainly more divided and dangerous, and the imperatives of making Canada an energy superpower in all respects has never been greater.
To deliver on that promise, Carney turning to the premiers to name 5 projects in their region that they would like to see Ottawa help fund or fast track in new legislation that could come before Parliament heads on summer break. Some are big asks, like Alberta Premier Danielle Smith wanting new pipelines. Yukon wants help on a $2 billion project to tie the BC electricity grid with theirs.
Morning, everyone, or afternoon.
Premiers are also helping take the lead on another key file, internal trade.
You staying a couple extra days to go fishing?
I'm not a very good fisherman.
No?
Saskatchewan and Ontario signing a deal Sunday to knock down trade barriers between both their provinces, one of a number of similar recent agreements between premiers.
It shouldn't be easier to trade with other countries than it is to trade between the Canadian provinces of our nation. And it's more important now, I would say, than ever for us to prioritize removing any and all barriers.
The provincial push to deal with internal trade is helping Carney in his promise to bring down federal and provincial trade barriers to alleviate economic pressure exerted by the U.S., which is the third topic of discussion, in particular, Trump's latest threats to double tariffs on steel and aluminum.
President Trump cannot see the forest beyond the trees. He thinks he's going to punish us. Well, guess what? He's punishing his own people.
All right, Mackenzie, there's also word today that Carney's made some big changes to his staff. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Chris, since the election, it's been chaotic in Mark Carney's office. Not a lot of permanent staff have been hired, but that changed today with Mr. Carney hiring two very important people inside the PMO. His new chief of staff is going to be Marc-Andre Blanchard. He used to be the UN ambassador. He also has a large business background. He worked at the Castres Depot in Quebec. The other person that's been hired is the former Justice Minister, David Lametti. He's going to serve as the principal secretary, another high-level PMO job. I've spoken with a number of Liberals and current Carney staffers. They are all very happy with the decision to bring both of these people on because of their political and business experience, but also because they believe that Carney respects both of them, Chris. And when there's pushback against the Prime Minister, they believe that both of these individuals will be able to have Carney's ear and change his mind on some things, something that has not happened very often in Carney's short time as Prime Minister.
Some notable additions to be sure. Mackenzie, thanks very much. That's Mackenzie Gray in Saskatoon. Coming up, a great chance to see the Northern Lights. We'll tell you where and when. Plus, early predictions for the summer months. We'll check in with our chief meteorologist, Anthony Farnell. Even if you're not a night owl, it'll be worth staying up late tonight. The Space Weather Prediction Center says there's a strong chance the entire country will get a good view of the aurora borealis, or northern lights as we call them. A discharge of energy from the sun will reach our atmosphere with a very colorful blast. And you might be wondering, what kind of weather can we expect this summer across Canada? It can be tricky to predict, but let's bring in our chief meteorologist, Anthony Farnell, for the long-range summer weather outlook. Anthony?
Good evening, Chris. At this time of year, Canadians are excited for the longer days, and generally we like hot weather, but maybe not too hot. Now, as far as this summer goes, we'll get to the details coming up, but let's start with how we came up with the forecast. Is it an El Nino, a La Nina that we're working with? Well, right now, it's La Nada. There's not a signal one way or another here in the equatorial Pacific. Turning to the Atlantic, above normal water temperatures still encompassing this basin with a few exceptions, and that will likely lead to an active hurricane season. NOAA, south of the border, predicting a 60% chance of above normal activity, including up to 19 named storms and 5 major hurricanes. This would be the list of names that we'll go through in this 2025 season. Now, last year, Atlantic Canada was spared. They didn't have any hurricanes. This year, time will tell if they're lucky again, but we are predicting above normal temperatures along with above normal rainfall here. It'll turn muggy, and it's those overnight lows that will likely lead to an above normal temperature this summer in the Great Lakes in Quebec. As far as western regions, heat domes, perhaps late June and July, and this is where we're very confident for hot conditions, and it starts already, and that's one of the reasons why we've had this active May. As far as fire seasons, it continues into June, near normal temperatures around the Great Lakes with above normal rainfall all summer long. If only this rain could be displaced here. Doesn't look likely, though. Over the next 3 months through August, our signals are strong for below normal rainfall, and that will lead to a continued active fire season across the prairies And later this summer, I do think BC will have to be on the lookout for active fires as well. Chris?
All right, Global News Chief Meteorologist Anthony Farnell, thank you. Mexico is holding its first ever judicial elections, but the vote is controversial. Voters are deciding who will fill over 2,600 judicial positions, from Supreme Court justices to local judges. There are roughly 7,700 candidates. The vote, which many say is far too confusing, is part of a promised overhaul of the country's court system, which used to have appointed judges. The Mexican government says the new rules are meant to reduce corruption and cronyism, but critics worry the new system turns judicial appointments into a popularity contest for the ruling party. In Paris, celebrations over a major soccer victory turned violent and deadly last night as some fans clashed with police. Two people were killed in separate incidents as thousands celebrated Paris Saint-Germain's first ever championship win at the UEFA Champions League tournament. One of the victims is a 17-year-old boy who was fatally stabbed. Police also arrested nearly 500 people in scuffles throughout the French capital involving tear gas and water cannons. Despite the overnight chaos, a huge trophy parade proceeded today, celebrating the historic victory of the Paris Saint-Germain Soccer Club. Ahead, the tough new French language rules that have some businesses in Quebec trying to adapt again. French language laws are looming large over some businesses in Quebec tonight. The province is introducing a new set of requirements. Bill 96 includes tough French language provisions for signs and product labels. But as Braden Jagger-Haynes reports, the new law is creating confusion for some business owners.
With mandatory changes to storefront signage across Quebec imminent, the workload at this Montreal print shop is surprisingly slower than expected.
I'm going to say not a ton of people are pulling the trigger yet. Everybody's starting to do drawings. We're going a lot back and forth with people because the law itself it's a little bit vague.
Under the new language laws, store signage will have to include generic terms or descriptions in French that take up twice as much space as the English brand name. While there are exceptions to the rule, such as family names and geographical locations, legal experts say the law is not all black and white.
I'm expecting some disputes about this. I'm expecting the OQLF to be aggressive towards these kinds of trademarks, given the new language and the new rules. And so I think there will be debate. We're expecting litigation on that front.
The new provisions also touch product packaging. As of June 1st, generic or descriptive elements, such as ingredients and color of the product, must appear in French. Most of the equipment sold in this music store, for example, does not comply with the amendments to the French language charter.
The law will be applied via when there's a complaint. So if somebody complains about that Black Star amplifier we looked at earlier, I will then get a cease and desist. You cannot sell that amplifier anymore. We will oblige 100%.
Companies will have a 2-year grace period to sell non-compliant products. Fines for offenses could range from $3,000 to $30,000 per day.
So it's not a problem of willingness. It's really a question of timeline and capacity.
Quebec's language minister says the rules are clear and compulsory.
If the business is working in showing good faith, we'll be okay.
In the meantime, many store owners are opting for a wait-and-see approach. Braden Jagger-Haynes, Global News, Montreal.
Up next, the last day for the Bay as shoppers make one final pilgrimage to the iconic Canadian retailer. Canada's oldest retailer has officially closed. Hudson's Bay held its final liquidation sales at all locations today, ending an era stretching back 3 centuries. Phil Carpenter reports.
The lineups to get into the Bay's flagship downtown Montreal store started about an hour before opening. Among the people hoping to find last-minute deals, Tam Tran looking for jewelry for his wife.
because it's going to be 25th years of anniversary of marriage.
Despite the potential for great bargains, the mood in the line was somber.
Sad. It's very sad, I find. It's been here for so long.
Sad because end of day Sunday, all their locations across the country will be closed, putting more than 8,000 people out of work. The company filed for bankruptcy protection in March and carries over $1 billion in debt.
Retail's been dying for over a decade. Even going back before COVID, it was in decline. COVID sped it up a little bit.
This closure is a significant loss for longtime shoppers.
I have beautiful Hudson Bay blankets that have been passed down through generations. We're lucky enough.
The company, incorporated in 1670 as a fur trading company, is the oldest corporation in North America. Many of its outlets in Canada became iconic, like this downtown Montreal space, the Bay's second location in the city.
When it moved here in the 1890s, early 1890s, this prompted St. Catherine to become in that sector the department store avenue of Montreal.
This space, like those in other cities, covers hundreds of thousands of square feet. Economists say losing anchor locations like this means the shopping focus moves elsewhere.
And if the weight shifts away from here, then it's the local businesses that lose one of the main draws for spillover into their stores.
Heritage experts think every effort should be made to find use for the older structures like the Montreal spot.
Well, this is sculpted stone. This is the equivalent of the Burke's building next to it. And, a number of talents are invested, so we can't waste that.
Some aspects of the chain could be preserved. Canadian Tire hopes to acquire the retailer's name and other intellectual property. Some comfort to those for whom this place has so many memories. Phil Carpenter, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Chris Galis. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Fred Johns Park in Leduc, Alberta, a patriotic garage in Thornhill, Ontario, and Port Maitland, Nova Scotia. Keep those pictures coming. Send them to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks very much for watching.